What? Did I? Well, apparently I did order this one. I apparently ordered a tester pack of Sennelier Eau Pastels. So yes, I did order a sample pack of oil pastels. I don't have any memory of that, but I am very happy and a bit shocked, to be honest. But I was so inspired by this, and I decided to seize the moment, carpe diem a little bit, if you will. So I decided to just get started right away. So that was the beginning of 2 crazy days of exploration into the magic world of oil pastels. But before we get too excited, I decided I needed to see what I'm actually working with here. So I pulled out a few different surfaces just to see what I have to work with, or to work on, I should say. So I have some canvas, I have some craft paper, I also found some stone paper that is really interesting of a surface. To be honest, I haven't explored that surface as much as I might want to, but it's very rubbery, you can't tear it, it's really weird. And then also some heavyweight paper from Dowley that is good for pretty much anything and everything. So I felt like that would be like the safe choice. And yeah, so I just decided to lay them sort of close to each other and then swatch them out. So the set that I got was like a primary set. So we have the primary colors, green, black, and white. So I pulled out the oil pastels I had that is like, kind of cheap, that I got from China, where. And I just wanted to see the difference between them and how differently they looked on the paper. And as you can see just from the first swatches, the Sennelier colors are more vibrant, laying down very, very smoothly. And yeah, that white one. So I'm just looking at both how the colors compare, but also how the oil pastels react on the different surfaces. And what my conclusion, if you will, is that I felt like the Dowley heavyweight paper was the best way to go. They reacted the best, and I felt like I didn't have to fight with them on that kind of paper. But they do look really fun on the craft paper too. So that is sort of my initial test. I can also say that the Sennelier color crayons pastels are super smooth, like butter, or lipstick, I should say. It's like a lipstick. Very, very nice, really nice colors, and yeah, very fun. So that is sort of what I tested out. And then I decided to hop on over to Skillshare. I felt like this is such a new territory, and it was so much fun having a medium to really explore. I mean, I feel pretty confident in watercolor, in colored pencils, in acrylic. Obviously not in oil pastels. So it was really fun to just go in there very, very open-minded, and just say, I don't know anything. Start from the beginning. And the course I found was very, very good. I will have that linked below. I think I linked it in the vlog where I'm talking about this too, but it's so good. And she really goes over so many great tips for oil pastels. So here it's just like the first, here's a lesson where we are blending, which was very interesting to get tonal values and shadows and a tint. That was really, really good. And I felt like, even though I don't see myself as becoming an artist to work with oil pastels only, I'm not that fond of the medium, to be honest, spoiler alert, but I feel like I had so much fun learning, and I feel like I can take away a lot from this process and apply it to other things too. And that is the real value, I believe, of learning new stuff, is that even though it could be applied to what you are learning, so in this case oil pastels, I can take what I'm learning here or what I'm practicing on, and that can improve something else, like maybe how I work with soft pastels, or how I work with watercolor, or I don't know, just something. So I think that is why I love learning as something active learning. I think that is one of the best things. So yeah, it felt really good to sort of go into this sort of frenzy, if you will, just getting some lessons, practicing, just getting my hands doing this stuff. Here I am discovering I have another set of oil pastels from Prima. They have this sort of sub-brand that is called Art Philosophy. And these are water reactive oil pastels. And I'm thinking, can I use that with the traditional oil pastels? Will they react, or will there be some will they react oddly? But they worked so nicely with the quote-unquote real pastels, or the real oil pastels. And I really love the colors in this set. So this is the rustic set. They have like I think a bright set or something too. But yeah, I mean, like I've said many times, I came into the art world through scrapbooking. So lots of my roots and brands are from the scrapbooking world. So Prima, of course, is a very big brand in the scrapbooking world, who is now trying to get into the art world with this sort of art philosophy brand, which is really fun to see where the different brands are going. But yeah, so I'm mixing all of the pastels. I have the water-soluble ones from Prima or Art Philosophy, also the very fancy one from Sennelier, and the really cheap one from AliExpress. And I'm doing this on purpose, partly because I want to see if the colors can work together nicely, but I also want to make sure I'm using them. I want to make sure I'm using not just the cheap ones. I know how it is when you start with watercolor. You often start with the cheap ones and you won't get a good result because the colors are typically not as good. But I also want to make sure that I use them, and also making sure that I use the most expensive ones, that I'm not afraid of using them because they are expensive. So I'm making sure that I have all of the colors out, easy to reach, that I don't put the fancy colors away in their fancy box. So that is just a strategy I have when I'm doing stuff. When I want myself to use something, I make sure it's easy for me to use, that I don't have to struggle to reach it or anything like that. So this was a really fun exercise, blending different colors, blending warm to warm, cool to cool, and then the last one is blending a warm color into cool and seeing what happens. And just these super basic exercises, blending, tinting, shadowing, it's just such a good way to start out. Then we got a really good exercise in how to blend in a different way. If you don't physically use your finger or something to blend the colors, she had a really fun exercise to blend colors, optically blending them. So you lay down one color and then the other, and then letting your eye sort of blending the colors together, which I think is really fun with the oil pastels. Because they have that very textural look, that's really fun. So this was about halfway through the course, and I decided that I cannot wait anymore. I need to paint. I need to draw something. So I took the Daleroni heavyweight paper and sort of just got started. So I'm making a super basic landscape. I want to try all of these techniques. I just want to see what's happening. to be honest. So I have a few clouds. I'm making like a little bit of a scenery so I can have both like land, grass, land, and then also some oceans. So I have different elements to work on. And I'm trying to use all the techniques I've learned, doing some heavy blending where you like use physical pressure to blend, also doing some blending where you go in with light layers, slowly building up, some layers where you go in with a darker color and then laying lighter color on top of that. And I just had so much fun. Didn't realize that I wasn't recording properly. It's the best way. So yeah, so that is what I did on the end of day 1. And I think these are the best things that could possibly happen when you feel so inspired by something that you just have to stop with that and go forth, and that is what happened here. Now, what I created, to be honest, is not my best work. I mean, it's not very good at all in any way, but I had so much fun. It was really fun. And I think what I like the most about working with the crayons, I'm going to call them crayons. I know they're all oil pastels, but what I like about them is that they're so fun that you're holding in the paint. There's not many mediums where you actually physically holding the paint. I mean, when we paint with acrylic or watercolor or something, we're holding in a brush, transferring the paint. Here we're physically holding the paint, but it sort of reacts as paint. Soft pastels is more like a dust or a powder where you sort of have to work it into the page, whereas the oil pastels, sort of when you layer them, sort of become a paint. I really like that, and I like that you can't get it perfect. Well, maybe someone can, I can't, but I like that you have a physical texture on it, and I think that is something I'm missing when I do watercolor. Everything is so flat. I mean, I can get texture, I can get depth depending on how I'm painting or what colors I'm using. I can get granulation and I use salt and all of that, but to actually like see the paint, that is something I really love when I paint in acrylic, that you can actually build up texture and get texture in something. And I mean, you don't layer oil pastels so they will build mountains, but you still have that texture of the crayon, and I know, I just really like it. I'm a bit fascinated. Can you tell what I've got like so deep into it? You can really build up these super rich colors. I really like that. Something that I mean, they're not all good, obviously. Like I said, I don't think this will be my primary medium. They're messy. They're messy in the way that because you're physically holding the paint, you will get messy. Also, I found that the crayons themselves got messy when you scribble them over another color. It's hard to keep the surface clean where you work. They're also really hard to store. I mean, the oil pastels never really dries. They don't dry, so it's hard to store them in a good way. And even though I really like the look of this, that I can't get it perfect, I like that you can see all the lines and everything. I think that, to be quite honest, I like tiny details that you can get with watercolor and a super tiny brush. So, yeah. But I feel like it's very good for somebody like me that loves tiny details, super tiny brushes, getting those perfect strokes to play with a medium like the oil pastels where you can't have that, when you just have to let go and see the bigger picture. Obviously, you can't do the tiny details here. Here you really need to step back to see the good image that you have created. So I really like that, to really challenge myself and how I see my working, like how do you say it? Seeing my work process, I suppose, or how I'm thinking when I'm building up an image. But also seeing what I'm creating. Like, what is it? How did I do this differently than if I were to use watercolor? Should I, or I don't know how to phrase it, but would I have composed the image in another way? Would I have used color in another way if I were to use watercolor? I think those are really fun, interesting things to think about when it comes to playing with different mediums and really like going deep diving into them. Yeah. So yeah, here is the image. Now I'm thinking, like I've said several times, that oil pastel will never be my primary medium. I have seen others on Instagram and such who use oil pastels amazingly, and I'm super inspired. But I think, to be honest, I love watercolor and I can't see myself moving away from them. But I really like oil pastels, so I'm thinking, how can I work with that? What can I do? How can I do to incorporate this medium into my work process? How could that look? That is what I'm thinking. So on the second day, I want to explore something. How could oil pastel fit into my work, the way I work right now with watercolor? Can I make that look as good as I think I can? So what I decided to do was to make a very loose watercolor wash and slowly sort of get a shape out of it. And what I'm thinking is that I make my watercolor painting and then finish off with oil pastels to really get out those details. So I'm thinking like something with scales or feathers might be a good way to get those, to really use that kind of texture out of the oil pastels that I really liked, because that was one of the things that I really liked about them. And also something I really like about them is that they are opaque. You can layer them over darker colors. So I'm working here and I'm starting to see a shape, and I have sort of added a bit of pencil around it so I can sort of get a closer view of this shape. And I decided it looks sort of like a snake with wings. And I'm like, perfect, we both have scales and feathers. I'm so clever. Right now I'm just adding some salt on top of the wash just to get some texture. And I am working currently, the new colors that will be coming out in the shop is inspired by the different house colors in Harry Potter, and I'm like, it looks like it could be like an okami. So perfect. Anyway, so I'm starting to see the shape, and what I decide to do is going with a darker color and sort of chisel out the shape from the paper. And I'm trying to tell myself throughout this process that what we are looking for with this painting is to try out the oil pastels and how that will look. So don't overwork it with watercolor. Yeah, I say that to myself every time, even though, yeah, we all know how that ends. So, yeah, I decided to try to keep a very sort of close color scheme. So we go for an orange, yellow, and sort of green, blue, so keeping it pretty short. And I really like having the warm and the cool colors, so having more of the warmth in sort of the snake body, and then having more of the cool tones underneath, so that that orange body really stands out. So that is what I'm working on, and I really want to get a flowy background. I don't want any too harsh edges except for around the wing part, so you can see the wings clearly, but nothing else. I just want there to be a very nice, easy foundation for me to keep working on later. Which is easier said than done, because overworking is my favorite pastime to do, so yeah. Isn't it yours? Anyway, so I'm doing that, and I'm feeling like I really start liking this image more and more, which is always a good thing. And before I go in with the oil pastels, I'm just going to add a little bit more with pencil to shape out, because like I said, you can't really go in with the details with the oil pastels. So I'm using a soft pastel pencil, and I'm also using a pen from Derwent that is an Inktense pen, and I'm just dipping that into water. Now these pens react with water like watercolor pencils, but instead of having watercolor in them, they have ink based, so when they dry they are permanent. So I'm just dipping it into water to get a richer color when I'm working with it, and I just want to shape out a few things that I couldn't really do with the watercolor. So that is what I'm doing to get the sort of last touches before I go in with the oil pastels. And by now I have to say I'm a little bit nervous, and I think that is why I keep getting new pencils and adding more details, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I don't like it? I don't know. Like, I am thinking about that. And this piece I have created just to try out the oil pastels, but still I'm like, oh gosh, what if it doesn't turn out good? What if I don't like it? It's stupid. It's silly. But it's, yep, we just need to go for it. So, I'm going for it. I'm picking colors that I feel like fits with the color schemes. I'm picking out white that is really bringing out highlights. I'm going with yellow, light orange to really get that. I want that sort of downy, feathery texture on the wings. And I'm using both the Sennelier colors, I'm using the Prima colors, just to get the different tones or shades that I really like. And I think that is a downside with the oil pastels, is that you can't really mix them. If you have a yellow and a blue, you can't make green if you don't like mix them on the page. If you have two crayons, you can't make a third crayon that is green. Like with watercolor, you can just mix yellow and blue on the palette. So that is something, but that is true of pretty much every medium. So yeah. But yeah, and here I'm trying to think about that optical blending. I want the colors to sort of follow the shift I have underneath. And I really want these strokes to feel like they are strokes. I don't want it to hide them. I don't want them to look perfect in any way. I just want them to be there. That when you look at this, you will be able to tell that those are put there for a reason. They're oil pastels. They're put there to create a texture, to create the image. Okay. I'm hoping that makes sense. Anyway, by this time I'm really, really happy with it, and I decide to just go in and adding a few more details, and I'm using a Faber-Castell Pit Artist brush pen. That was a mouthful. Just to add a few more details, and I really like these brush pens. They are India ink, so they are permanent, but they come in a lot of different colors. And I really like that, so we don't just have to use like black fine liners. So yeah. And of course, the last thing is the white highlight, isn't it? So yeah, that is my exploration of watercolor. I had so much fun. I love how this piece turned out. I'm going to show you how it looks just when I finished it, and I was really happy with it. I love that it looks so sort of messy in a way. Makes me really happy because, like I've said, I'm very controlled, very detail focused, but I love how it looks. And I'm also going to show you here where I've just scanned it in and fixed the colors. And yeah, I'm just so happy with it. I had so much fun. I feel like I've learned so much during these 2 days that I just decided to let go, to explore, have fun, and yeah, even though I might not use oil pastels all the time, I feel like I'm much more comfortable using them now, and I just really like them. And yeah, I hope this has inspired you to let go, to just dive in, try out a different medium than you might think that you would like. Maybe for you that would be charcoal or soft pastels, acrylic, oil, I don't know. But it was so much fun just going in open-minded and just learn, and then using that in your own way together with something you use, and just see what happens. Yeah, so thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for watching. I don't know, I'm never good at ending this. Oh gosh.